Season 3 premiere, our first guest is the director of such great productions as Sugar in Our Wounds, Passage, and the upcoming show at MTC, The New Englanders. Give it up for Saheem Ali!
Hey everyone!
Hey!
How's it going?
How's it going?
Welcome.
Hey.
Thank
you.
And we're back! Thank you, Saheem, for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, you have a world premiere at MTC by a new play by Jeff Augustin, correct? Called The New Englanders. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a new play set in New England. And when you think of the title, The New Englanders, and you think of like a couple that's there, automatically you think of probably like a white heterosexual couple with like, white heterosexual kid. But this is actually a gay, mixed race couple, long-term, 20 years, raising a mixed race child.
Ooh.
So already it's like super ironic. It's like just not what you expect from that. And the play opens with this father like braiding his daughter's hair on the porch in New England. And then what unfolds is this like story of this family trying to like cope with what regular folks cope with. So they're going through a midlife crisis, some infidelity, like a troubled teenager. And it's really this kind of beautiful, quietly revolutionary play that's about people of color and queer people living like quote unquote normal lives, just like other people do.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful play.
Oh,
That
wow.
sounds wonderful. We've looked at your history in directing, and it seems that you have, either intentionally or not, had a really amazing focus on queer stories and stories featuring people of color. And I just wanted to know, was this something that you meant to do as a director, or is this just something that you found out later?
Well, I got to this moment where I thought, I have to kind of put out into the world the kind of stories that I'm interested in. Where do I want to put my energy and my time, and what's important to me? So I realized very quickly that, it's important for me to have people of color on stage in not only in like, peripheral roles, but starring roles, like being the lead and those stories being center. And then queer stories, just getting to see queer people of all colors and hues like on stage and have their stories told like in different eras. So Sugar in Our Wounds, for example, which you guys saw, you had Danye here. It was
Shout out to
beautiful.
Danye.
Yeah, Danye Love, we love you.
We love you, baby.
That took place during slavery times, and it was about two men of color who were like dreaming of being together and falling in love but couldn't because of the time that they were in. Right. Fast forward to the story now, The New Englanders, where you have a man of color in a gay relationship raising a child, and it's like legal and acceptable, and so it's like this huge array of stories that feature these kinds of people. So I kind of decided that, I really want to be selective about the stories that I'm involved in and where I put my energy. And so once I put that out into the world, those stories kind of just started coming, So it was deliberate.
As a director, especially, this play and all the other plays you've done, when you are telling these queer POC stories, do you find yourself directing differently in other rooms, or is it sort of just like a personal passion of yours?
It's a personal passion, so it's the same thing. What's delightful is to be in a room with those people, with POC folks, with queer folks, and being in these predominantly white spaces.
Yes.
We've been invited in there, and we're there to tell our stories on our own terms. And all the institutions that I've been part of so far, Atlantic, MTC, Lincoln Center, have been like very kind of generous in like giving us space and letting us tell our stories. Right. There's been no kind of censorship or interference or kind of like, trying to like kind of have an agenda,
Right.
So I feel like it's just a really beautiful moment right now where we're being given these opportunities because it's time,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
artists who are of those identities are telling their own stories. And I'm really conscious of also making sure the rest of the room reflects those stories as well. So designers of color, stage managers, like it's important on every level because everyone's a storyteller, So
Yes.
I just think and it has to be deliberate. Like those things don't happen accidentally. You have to say, this is important to me, and so therefore, like I'm putting this down as like something that I'm going to make happen as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have, speaking of POC, you have a very celebrated show coming up. It's Anna Deavere Smith's revival of Fires in the Mirror.
Yes.
It's going to be at the Signature Theater. So for those of you that are maybe not familiar with this show, could you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Absolutely. Fires in the Mirror by Anna Deavere Smith, set in 1991 in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. It's about the Crown Heights riots that occurred at that time as a result of some friction between the Jewish community and the African American community. A young boy was killed because a car with a rabbi kind of went through a red light and veered and killed this boy. And so the African American community was incensed because the ambulance that came was a Jewish ambulance and only took care of the Jewish passengers and didn't take care of the young black man.
Right.
And so shortly after that, a few young men committed mob justice on a Jewish visitor from Australia and killed him. So and that was seen as a retaliation for that event. So all of a sudden, this fire was ignited between these two communities who were living side by side.
Right.
And so Anna Deavere Smith, who is like, a living legend in the American theater, I mean, that woman is an extraordinary human being. She went and interviewed people in Crown Heights of both communities and then put together this piece that was not only about the event, but she was the only performer in it, and so she played 22 different characters in 26 different scenes in this one-person show, and it kind of put her on the map because it was such a feat,
Right.
So that was in '92. So the play hasn't been done in New York in 25 years. 25, 20, how
is
many
that
years is
right?
it from 92?
practically
27 years,
27.
right? So this is the
Yeah.
revival of the play, and Anna was very open to like people of different genders as well.
Right.
So the man who's playing Michael Benjamin Washington, he's an extraordinary actor who's going to be like taking on this role. So not only is it the first time it's being done in New York since the premiere, but a male actor will be playing that role.
Wow. Is
I
it
didn't
just one
realize.
person, or is
Yeah.
it going to be more?
One person.
Wow, still just one person.
That is such
Yeah.
a big change from that, but
Right?
that's exciting. It's exciting to see how
really
it's
exciting.
evolved.
Yeah, so many people have come up to me and said like, this play changed my life. This play made me want to be an actor. Made me want to be this. It's like, you study this in theater
I studied
history.
it in college.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, this is- yeah.
So it's kind of extraordinary to like be seeing this
Right,
play
right.
in this moment.
That's sick.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Not seeing it, directing it.
Oh yeah,
Let's call it for what it is.
true.
Yeah, and this is coming up
for
like
you.
late October, right?
This is October. Yeah,
Yeah,
after
yeah.
the New Englanders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Get your tickets.
Do you even sleep? Like, you're just working constantly, back to back.
It's been very fortunate.
Take a lot of drugs.
And wine.
Instagram
Yeah, yeah.
filter of like just for like sleepy eyes or
Yeah, right.
just for we'd all benefit. This is-
Yeah. So now that you have, a world premiere like New Englanders and a revival like Fires in the Mirror, do you find that directing them are significantly different? And do you prefer like directing world premieres versus revivals, or do you have any preference to that?
It's very different. It's very different, and I actually really love new work. And the reason I love new work is because I love the collaboration with the playwright. I love being part of the process before a finished script arrives, so that I'm collaborating with the playwright as he or she is figuring out, how to make the play work, and then with designers to try and like make a world that hasn't existed. Because for me, part of the joy is in like, will it work?
Right.
Does it work? If it's a revival, it works.
Right,
It's just a question of whether you're going to fuck it up or not.
Right.
Right. That really, truly.
Yeah.
But when it's a new play, it's like there's such a mystery, and like you get to conceive of something. You don't have like a precursive notion or another production that you're trying to like fight against.
Right.
But like with Fires in the Mirror, I haven't watched anything. I know there's like a recording of it or something, but like I really try to keep fresh so that I'm not fighting against like someone else's vision of the piece. But I really do enjoy new work, I have to say. Yeah.
Cool. What was the process like with Jeff Augustin working on New Englanders?
Amazing. Jeff is a wonderful playwright. He's actually based in LA mostly now, so he's been coming back and forth.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's been an extraordinary process. The play has evolved a lot, and we have a great cast. We have Harvey Munoz is in it, and
that's
Tegel
from
Auger
Hamilton?
from Hamilton.
Yeah, cool.
That's
Patrick Green,
fantastic.
Cara Young.
Carrie Young, that's your girl.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cara's in it. She's
Besties,
amazing.
shout out.
She's amazing. Yeah, and Yuli Schlesinger. It's a great cast. Yes.
Ah, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see
Cara,
it.
love Cara.
She was fantastic in Sinking Ink. Were
She
you able
was
to
so
see that?
good. Of course, yeah.
Oh god,
Yeah, and Revolving
that was
Cycles.
my favorite play of the
I know,
whole
I
year.
know, I
That's
know.
my
Cara, we
favorite
love
play.
you.
Shout out.
Shout out to Carrie Young.
So you mentioned this already, but you have specifically chosen designers of color to work with, including Arnolfo Maldonado and Didi Ayete. Do you feel that working with a familiar team is a big part of how you direct, or do you like working with new people or building your tribe? How do you feel?
I love working with my tribe. You know, I will go back to the same folks who I've worked with because it's like my sense of community, you know?
Yes.
We're always shifting rooms, we're shifting the actors that we work with, the plays and the worlds, and I like some sense of continuity. So if I find like a designer who I like, I latch onto them and we tell different stories together because we're storytellers and interpreters. So if I find that I speak the same kind of interpretive language with a designer, I'm going to try and get them in every room that I get in. So Arnolfo and Didi especially, like you know, they're the first
they're
ones I go to.
fantastic.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. When I was going through like your various plays that you've directed, I was like, oh, this name's here again.
Yeah.
This name's here again.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he definitely likes some people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. Do you feel like you have like a directing aesthetic at all?
I don't. I approach each play like the play has to speak to me for some reason, I think you'll find like the different pieces of mine that you've seen are kind of different in how they like live in time and space,
Right.
and so part of the challenge is always kind of like reinventing or reconsidering like how like this play functions. So my aesthetic is to be truthful to the piece, is to serve the playwright, to serve the play, tell the story in like as clear and interesting way as possible, and that'll shift depending on what the play is. So for Jeff's play, for instance, like for some reason with these actors and with the script, like it came together so fast. We were ready to go into tech after 2 weeks of rehearsal,
Wow.
you know?
Wow.
And I didn't alter
Right.
anything in my process.
Right.
It was just same approach, same table work, same kind of like, you know,
Right.
exploration. But with other plays, it's like 4 weeks and we're like,
Really?
oh shit, I wish we had more time, you know? So, and it's me, it's all
Right.
me in those different rooms.
Yeah.
So, it does, part of it stays the same and part of it evolves.
You know, you got what you just said got me thinking about Danye's interview when he did here, and he was talking about how you work really fast. And he was like, oh, what I love about Saheem is that he sees and he just works really quickly. And I was like, and then you would just talk about the Jeff's play.
Yeah.
So do you feel like speed is part of your process, or is it different?
I feel like because I spend a lot of time understanding the world of the play. Like I spend a lot of time with the model, I spend a lot of time talking with my designers, I spend a lot of time with the playwright. So by the time I'm in the room, I have a pretty strong idea of like what my entry into the world is. And so, and if you've like been fortunate to get like the right cast with you, then you just like glide.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and I tend to be kind of concise and succinct in terms of like just communication. So probably that's what he was referring to. Yeah. You know?
Got it,
I don't tend to circle around something. I tend to like, you know, just be clear about it and again, like it just depends if you have the right people in the room, if you have the right actors, like it just like flows.
Right. So when a play comes across your desk, what are the first things that jump out at you, especially for like a world premiere or something, like a new play?
I want to identify something in it that I feel like I haven't seen on stage, something that I haven't myself personally been involved with in the past. And typically, like if there's something that I feel like is a challenge, something that like the playwright has kind of hinted at without being really prescriptive, but like, you know, puts a gesture out there and I'm like, oh, how do you do that? I'm in,
Right.
you know? So I feel like I'm looking for plays that are seeking not only to tell stories that I haven't seen on stage, but that do it in a way that I haven't quite seen in some way.
Right.
And that could be so many different kinds of things, you know? It could be physically, like with Danye's play, Sugar in Our Wounds, like with a tree. It's like,
Yes.
he really put that gesture down. It's like a tree that sings and speaks and moves, but it's not only metaphoric, it's also practical because they had to climb it and fall from it. So I'm like, okay, how do you do that, you know? So if I read a piece and it's like asking that, and it's like also talking about these really important themes and has a really important message, then I feel like that's the kind of thing that grabs me and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Right.
Yeah,
A challenge.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is there any sort of playwright or sort of plays that you've seen that you're very attracted to that maybe you want to direct one day?
Yeah, I love Dominique Morisseau's writing.
Who doesn't?
I know, right? I thought what she did for the book for Ain't No Mo was just it's not Ain't No Mo. It's Ain't Too Proud.
Ain't Too Proud.
Yeah,
right.
So
They're
my
similar.
answer.
Yeah.
I know.
No, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, we do try to reach the youth. If you would like to give any advice to any aspiring theater makers, what would you like to say?
I would say really find the words to articulate what you feel is important to you. Once upon a time I thought like, I'm a director, I should be able to direct anything and everything. Just give me a script and give me some actors and I can do it. And that's just not the way to go about it. Like, you have to identify what's important to you, what you want to spend your time on this planet doing, and then be really articulate about that. And once you start to find the language for it and you put it out into the world, those things come to you. So identify what's important to you, find the language for it, and then express it.
Got it. All right, last segment. We're here at the end. So, do you know? It's recommendation time. Do you know the formula?
No.
Oh my God, Saheem.
Is
All
there?
right.
You
damn
can
it.
recommend anything.
Yeah, totally. I have something to
that's what he
recommend.
meant.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
was like,
just
what's the
recommend.
formula?
No, formats. Like, you just recommend whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
He knows.
Yes.
You know.
Any recommendations?
Yes, you could give it to the center camera, or you can, if you want to get close, you can give it to a close
Yeah.
whatever you want.
You're gonna be like, listen up, camera one.
Yeah.
I highly recommend an exhibition at the Met by Wangechi Mutu. She's a Kenyan sculptor, and the Met commissioned her to make these facade sculptures. And they are extraordinary. And this is the black female being commissioned by the Met to do these extraordinary sculptures. So go see that.
All right.
On my list.
So get that shit. Get on it.
Done.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you
Saheem.
so
Thanks
much
for having me.
me.
This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah,
This
Thanks,
is
thanks,
great.
thanks, thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
This was incredible.